You're listening to Sweet Talk, all things maple.
Welcome to Sweet Talk, all things maple. I'm your host, Aaron Whiteman, broadcasting today from Cornell Maple Program headquarters in the beautiful Arnott Forest. Joining me from the frozen north is my colleague, Adam Wild. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Aaron. It's good to be back. Although I have a correction to make. Everybody knows that the real headquarters of the maple program is Eline Forest in Lake Placid, and that's because we always make more syrup than you do every year.
Okay, Adam. I'll concede that because you did outproduce me this year, and I'm a little ashamed to admit it because I'm supposed to be an expert, but you beat me fair and square.
Well, I'm not going to rub it in too much, and that's because there's a lot of maple producers who beat both of us in terms of total production and pounds per tap. So we're not the top producers out there necessarily.
Yeah, that's true. You and I are paid to be specialists and do research, but many of the best experts in maple production are maple producers themselves. Folks like Glenn Goodrich, Randy Sprague, Gordy Putnam, Mike Bennett, Mike Parker, and so many others come to mind.
Yeah, I think we are very lucky to have so many producer experts that are willing to share their expertise and take leadership roles in the maple community.
And a lot of these folks are right here in New York State. So today we're bringing you a delightful interview with Dan Weed, who I consider a producer expert and who happens to have a sugar bush just over the hill from the Arnott Forest.
Yeah, and for those who haven't met Dan, his business is called Schoolyard Sugar Bush, and he collects sap from several woodlots in central New York and runs a good-sized operation with full-time staff and an equipment dealership.
I caught up with Dan for a chat in his evaporator room while he boiled up one of the last runs of the season. So you'll hear the evaporator running and the crew working in the background.
The sweet sounds of sugaring. That's music to my ears, so let's go ahead and have a listen to the interview.
So I'm here today with Dan Weed of Schoolyard Sugar Bush. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Aaron.
Let's start at the beginning and see if you can just tell us a little bit about your business.
So, obviously, we're a maple farm here in central New York. My family started making pancake mix back, my dad was 4 when they started doing that. And, of course, we were selling syrup back then as a family. And due to my asthma, I couldn't be in the flour mill. So my dad wanted to teach me a trade when I came back from college, and consequently we went to the woods. And obviously maple production's a natural outcropping of woods work.
So what all do you do here at Schoolyard Sugar Bush? Are you just selling syrup? Do you have other things going on with the business?
So we do quite a bit of different things. We used to also have a construction company. Today we only do something that's related to maple. So I've built a few sugar houses in the last decade. We do a lot of consultations for other producers and woods installation, tubing installation. So we try and assist any of our customers or people that are interested in making syrup. My goal is to make it so that, if they succeed, we end up succeeding. If they fail, we fail too. So I want to see everybody succeed and hopefully not make the same mistakes I did.
So that extends to your maple equipment business as well?
Yes, the maple equipment business, packaging syrup, value added, whatever it is that they're trying to learn or work with. If we're tinkering with it, there's no secrets in the industry, in my opinion. So we try to teach what we know.
So a rising tide lifts all boats, that type of philosophy?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And that is important because if one of us is making bad syrup and a customer buys that, they might have a bad impression of the whole industry, right?
That's exactly the truth. And the goal is to see the best quality in not only this area, but, of all maple belt, but especially because, we're New York producers and we want to see New York succeed. So we're striving to make sure that especially our area is succeeding and doing a great job with production and quality.
So for your sugaring business, you're making products as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you have going on in the woods and what you have going on here in the sugar house?
So in the woods, we run about 47,000 taps currently. We have about 700 acres that are under tubing or that tubing crosses. So there's quite a bit of work there that's being done. Of that 700 acres, we own about 550 now. And with the lands that we buy, we try to go in and work the woods before we start putting up pipe. We want to see, most of the deadfall gone, the difficult species that need to go away, the daylight robbers removed from the woods. And the goal is that down the road, those who follow me, they won't know how good they've got it, but hopefully they'll have it better than I did. That would be the goal, is so that they won't have it easy. I mean, let's face it, we're all given new challenges with every decade and every generation, so it won't be easy. But if I can help them be successful when they come to that point, that'll make me happy. So that's what we're trying to do with our own woods. And then as far as in production, we bottle a lot of syrup in our facility. We also make a lot of candy, cream, sugar. We do maple popcorn, maple cotton candy. We do a little bit of maple fudge. We've done a concessions trailer with probably 10 or 12 different items that we've had in there, ranging from donuts, to lemonade. So there's just a lot of things that you can do with that. And so we're always tinkering with new products or reinventing one that we've already done to see, hey, maybe this is better. And tastes vary. When you think about it, when I was a young producer starting, very dark syrup was not easy to sell. And today, you almost can't sell golden in certain markets. So the tastes and the industry is constantly evolving. So we have to learn to just adapt with that and try something new.
And we have a little bit of background noise here for this interview. Can you tell us what you're boiling on back here?
So we 2.5 years ago switched over to what's an R7 CDL manufactured steam boiler. We have a 4x8 steam pan that we're making syrup on. When it's running and up to pressure, we run about 50 psi on the evaporator itself, and that gives us about 600 gallons of evaporation an hour, which is pretty incredible for a 4x8 pan. So we really like it. It's very easy to operate, so that eliminates a lot of issues. You can't burn the boiler, which is, an added benefit, especially because I can't do all this myself. That's why I have help. I'm not really asking them to, if you run it low, you're going to scorch the pan. So, nobody wants this bill for a new pan. They don't have that struggle to deal with. And then the biggest thing that I see as an advantage is that we can clean this evaporator very, very quickly and start, with pristine conditions again, and probably within 2 hours if we had to.
You just fill it with water and boil it and it's clean? Or is there more to it?
Well, depends on how bad it is. Some sap is a little bit more prone to niter build. So if it's really bad, we'll run acid in it. It has a clean in place system in it. So we turn the pan washer on typically at night and just run that during the evening. If it's been 500 to 800 gallons of syrup, that'll probably be sufficient. We've made 12 to 1,500 gallons, and we'll probably run an acid wash so that it's clean within 6 hours of the time we shut down.
That's an impressive technology.
It's incredible, and I look back on going from pails and a toboggan and 15-gallon drums to some of the things that we use today, and it's kind of mind-boggling, but it's also very nice. Some of those I don't ever care to repeat.
Yeah, I feel that pain myself. I understand that position. I'd like to get back into that in a minute, but first I want to kind of back up.
Sure.
And talk a little bit about your motivations for being in the industry. It sounds like your origin story is similar to a lot of sugar makers. You kind of worked your way into it through family connections. It was something you had done. It's grown into a business. But what's your motivator here? What keeps you in this industry? It's not the easiest industry. I know it has some fun components, but it has some frustrations too. So what's your motivator? So
personally, I really enjoy being out in the woods. If it weren't for ticks, it'd be the best place in the world. But when I'm in the woods, my mind is clear. I'm a happier person. So that's what really keeps me sane and going. The sugar house doesn't. However, we all have to be here from time to time. But the more that I'm outdoors and working out there, I'm happier. So that's one of the big things for me that motivates me to keep going. And then I would just like to see the industry grow and be better than it was. So when I was first starting out, and I should go back and say, like, my grandparents on my mom's side actually made syrup off of their farm with the neighbors. So I have pictures of my grandfather and my mother and all of them, when my mom was 4 years old, just this little gal at the sugar house. However, I didn't make syrup until I was in my 20s. And I hate to say it, I really wasn't up to knowledge on the industry. But during that time frame, there was a lot of downturn in the industry. due to changes that had transpired not only with climate, but what was acceptable practices in maple. And consequently, some of the farmers were not successful. So you would see sugar houses closing and almost a bad rap for maple. The one farmer that was close to us, he said, well, I'd love to tell you to go in there, but you're not going to make any money, so I'm not going to let you. It just kind of bothered me because I knew it could be done, but that was what had transpired. And we're going to face changes in every climate variant with technologies, and if we don't find the new avenue to overcome those changes, the industry will have a downturn. So my goal is to see it continue to move forward instead of having those downturn times.
Yeah, we're definitely on the upswing now compared to the 1980s and 1990s, where it seemed like this was not going to be an industry, just a hobby that people pursued.
It is definitely booming compared to that time frame, which I'm very grateful for. However, let's face it, we're only as good as what we continue to support. So if we let off our guard, we'll see it happen again.
Let's talk about some of these changes and especially the improvements that have happened in the industry. There have been a lot of advances. Things are way different now than they were 25 years ago. What are some of the improvements that you find particularly exciting?
Well, there's been a ton with evaporators and designs. Steam is a huge thing. I'm very interested to see some of these new electric evaporators. However, I don't believe in the U.S. that we're quite ready for that with our infrastructure system. But I want to be aware of where that's headed to, because I know it's coming to us. The big thing that we see is automation. Labor force is so hard to find, and the ones that you have that are really good laborers, you want them to feel trusted and enabled. So with the use of these automated technologies, whether it be vacuum sensors or operating equipment in the sugar house, ROs, evaporators, etc., that is going to assist us to be in the woods, which, let's face it, that's where we make money. We don't make money in the sugar house, we spend it here. And the woods is where we make that. So that's where we want to be and focus.
If there was one technology that you could cite that you just couldn't do without, which one would it be?
Probably the sensors. Which one, I'm not sure. We definitely like knowing that if we're getting up at 2 in the morning to go empty tanks, that for sure we have a reward when we get there. However, the vacuum sensors are phenomenal. Just to be able to know in real time what's happening in the woods. One of those two would be the best, or the one that I wouldn't want to do without. Although the automated ROs, I don't want to go backwards.
You're making me jealous with this talk of automated ROs.
Boy, they sure are worth it once you've tried it.
With the sensors, would you say you've noticed a per tap increase in production in your own operation since you had those sensors? Has it helped you enough that there's a measurable difference?
To answer that honestly, I would want to go back and check. What I can say is for sure we have less labor in maintenance of the tubing systems, and we maintain higher vacuum level. So, for instance, this particular site, there are about 15,000 taps here, and one guy can most of the time manage this woods. There might be a few times where we need to bring in another person for half a day or something, but before the sensors, we probably would need 3 here to do that at the same level, and we'd be behind as far as timing during the day. So it really assists us in that level. So as far as man hours, production, we're up there. Usually this season in this area, I won't say we're up there, but it's an anomaly. The weather definitely played a role.
So aside from the sugar bush and the sugar house, one of the other things that influences what we do is what's happening in the marketplace. What kind of market trends are you seeing, or what do you think is important that's happening in the marketplace right now for maple syrup and other maple products?
So the young people that we see coming into the market buying, food for themselves are very, very much aware of what they're eating and consuming. How does this affect me? And they're aware that maple, as well as other sweeteners, are going to be better for them than corn syrup, cane sugar, etc. So it's a lot easier to market our product not only as a topping for pancakes, but as an ingredient. And when we start thinking about maple as an ingredient, it really sets the stage for a ton of different opportunities for the whole food industry.
Are there any industries in particular that we think we should be breaking into?
It's almost limitless, whether it be, the beverages, but especially overseas. We just haven't done it because we tend to be smaller family farms, and it's hard to market overseas. So most of us just say, no, we're not going to do it. But somebody's got to break it through that mold and succeed more than we're doing today, so that it's not just the major packers that are marketing over there or the Canadian Federation.
I saw an article in the Maple Syrup Digest the other day that said that there are sugaring operations in Japan now.
Yes, I was a little surprised to see that myself, and I'm not sure what to think. I'd love to see what that syrup is like, because it's definitely a different variety of tree than what we have, and we know that each different variety or species of maple is going to make a slightly different syrup, although most of us just throw it in the same tank and that's maple syrup. But if we had all red maple or all soft maple, we would notice a difference. So it'd be interesting to see how that tastes and what the value-added implications are.
I'm heading over there in November, and I'm going to visit some sugar houses. I'll bring you back some samples if I can.
I would love to try some of it, just so that I can say I've done it.
Aside from these positive market trends, are there any trends that worry you in the marketplace? I'm thinking specifically of competition from Quebec. They're adding 7 million new taps by 2026. Do you have concerns about oversupply?
Oversupply, it could be an issue. So yes, that is a concern, but my concern is that sometimes we become complacent and just don't continue to work. So if each one of us that makes syrup is working to market the syrup that we make, there'll be no problem. But we tend to sit back and let somebody else do the marketing. So in our sugaring operation, the majority of our syrup goes right into the container and delivered to customers. So it's a unique benefit to us. It does create a lot more work during the year, which does help to keep staff busy and on full-time status. Brings a few complications, but if each one of us works more, we won't have any trouble marketing syrup. How much syrup is consumed worldwide per person? If we look at the worldwide stage, I'm not sure that we could even calculate how much it is because it's so minute. That should tell us a lot. There's an endless opportunity. We all like sugar, let's face it.
So this is a pretty big sandbox. There's room for a lot more players still.
There's definitely room for a lot of production in the area, and maple producers don't really compete with each other. I know sometimes we might step on each other's toes, but truly, if the guy down the street does well, it's good for us. If we do well, it's good for him. The more that we can market, the better.
And marketing maple syrup is easy in some ways, right? If you get people in the door and they try it, usually you have a new customer.
Yes, it's very easy to hook someone on maple syrup. Even when we're boiling like we are today and the quality isn't as good as I would like to see it, I sometimes cringe because people come in the door and they want to try a sample. So I'm really careful. Now, so you understand, this is not what we usually make, and they're usually like, oh, that's awesome. That's what I want. I want a jug of that. And I'm like, no, hang on. Imagine if I said that was really good syrup, what it would taste like. And so, yes, if we can just help people to get a taste of it, whatever the product might be, it's a lot easier to sell it the second time.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of maple is that everybody loves it so much. It makes it fun to work with. So there are some worrying trends, though. Top of mind, climate change, right? We're standing here, it's late March. We should be close to the end of the season, but we should still be going great guns and had a couple of good weeks behind us here. Instead, the season ended a few weeks ago, the main production period. This is the third year in a row where we've had kind of questionable weather conditions. Definitely last year was a bad year. So what are your thoughts about climate change? Are you worried? What do you think we should be doing?
I'm definitely concerned. I don't know 100% what has caused it or what we can do to change it, but I know we have to learn to adapt because it's not going away. And if somehow it does change, it won't change fast. So in our operation, we have tapped right around the 1st of January for more than a decade, but that's not soon enough. This past season, that hurt us a lot, waiting till January 1st. The year before, last year, we started on the 8th because it was 60 or 70 degrees the first 7 days. we can't wait that long anymore. We're going to have to be pushing into the holiday seasons in order to get the taps in and make the product that we need to for our markets to be viable. So that's a change. How do I make that happen and still maintain time at home with family, not only for myself, but for my team? These are all things that I don't know the answers to, but I am feverishly studying what I can do to make it better, and then looking at, what can we do to offset the tap hole closure so that we're still able to get some of the sap towards the tail end of the season, even though we may be tapping that early. So cleanliness, we know, my mother used to say it, cleanliness is next to godliness in maple, and it makes a better product. For sure in the woods, the cleaner we can keep that tubing and the tap hole, the better and the longer our season will be.
So you think there's a future for sugaring in New York if we adapt to the conditions that we're going to get?
I believe so, but just like the weather forecasts, I'll tell you next year how this year was.
Right.
But yes, I believe as long as we learn how to adapt and study that, we'll be okay. Trees are very resilient. We've seen that, when there's invasive species of pests that are coming in. One of the many caterpillars, we had one period of time where the caterpillars came in multiple years, and I was amazed to see how the trees responded. We had total defoliation, and they totally relieved. It was a little bit less of a crown of greenery, but that was all by the 4th of July. And I still look back on that just in amazement how good they are at adapting and changing to make that happen. So the stressors aren't good for the trees, so I want to do everything I can to minimize that. And when we look at, let's reduce the number of stressors, maybe that'll help offset some of these other things that we can't control in the meantime. Still do our part to try and reduce it, but I think the number of stressors is an issue that we should be addressing in the woods.
Yeah, in your experience, when you interact with new maple producers or people that you're trying to help out, do you see that they're putting the effort in the woods in general, or is that an area where we need to do more work?
We need to do a lot more work. So we actually have equipment that we go in to any of our woods just to prune and modify and better the woods before any tubing is installed. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of money to accomplish. But those woods will be so much better in 20 years than they are today because of that. So just like any other crop in agriculture, we're not necessarily tilling the soil, but we need to put our hands to the dirt, to the ground, and make it better.
Yeah, fast-growing, healthy tree is the one that's more resilient, right?
For sure.
So you're not only a sugar maker, you're the current president of the New York State Maple Producers Association. Can you, for our listeners, just talk a little bit about what the organization is and what you're hoping to accomplish in your leadership role?
Sure. So at this moment, I'm the current president, and I feel that's a privilege. My father and I, when we started 35 years ago, again, our goal was to leave maple better than we found it. And so anything we can do to assist in bringing that forward, we're glad to do. So when I was asked if I would do this, I was more than glad to step up. What does an association do for the producer? It gives you a bigger voice. Because when you pick up the phone and you have a problem and you call somebody, it doesn't go very far. And when it's a real big problem, you feel how little that we really are as people. But when the phone call is made from a group of people that can stand united and say, we need to help address this issue, all of a sudden, people with means and take time to listen and then say, okay, what can we do to accomplish bettering this for these people? So consequently, it gives you that bigger voice in the community. It also gives you support. The association does a lot with education, combining obviously with you and Cornell for our Maple Midwinter Classic in January. The literature that you folks put out, these are all resources that producers are able to bring to bear to their knowledge base, and the association helps to bring that forward. In my personal operation, in 2011, we built a new sugar house. And in 2010, I was trying to get a permit for building the sugar house. Even though we were agriculture, we didn't have to have a permit, but it was going to be better to get a permit. Our assessor at the time refused to give us an agricultural status, and we ended up having to go to Albany to get somebody to assist us, sitting down in the governor's office, and that all happened through the association, to make sure that the maple industry was included in that agricultural exemptions for buildings and the code enforcement. So that sugar house that we built in 2011 probably would not have happened if it weren't for the association. So it really set in stone in my mind the benefit that this brings to bear for any producer. It also gives you, as a producer, access to materials to help with promotion, somebody to call and ask questions of. Helen, our executive director, she fields hundreds of calls of producers that are like, how do I find this information out? And granted, another producer might know, but it's a quick, easy phone number that somebody can call and say, hey, and they might refer the individual to you, Aaron, or to me, or another producer, or a board member. But it gets you started in that trail of finding that information. So it's really beneficial for each producer in the state.
Are there ways that people who are already members can participate and help the association move the goals of the association forward?
For sure. We have several committees, which I now, as president, get to appoint. So if you would like to be involved, I would strongly encourage you to pick up the phone or email me and say, hey, I'd like to help, I'd like to assist. We'll find out what your skill set is, what you're interested in, and try and get you involved in areas that will work with the association. And there's no limit to what can be done with the industry. It's about how much time each individual is willing to give to it. And again, everyone will benefit from what's done with that group. So for sure, if you want to participate, there are lots of ways to do it. Also, participation in the state fair, supply of maple syrup to the state fair. I strongly encourage producers, if you haven't done it, to at least consider doing it. Then also, if you can just make yourself availed of the Midwinter Classic and that information, it'll help you not only to learn some information, but to realize how big of an industry this is, and maybe make a new friend, or just learn something that'll encourage you along the way. Because that's what I find is when I meet another producer, every single person I meet, I learn something from them. And so when I meet you, I want to glean some bit of cream off the top and take that back to my operation and make it better because of you and the others that I've met.
Yeah, and I think that's true even for me. Just interacting with all you really seasoned producers, there's always something to learn, and being part of the association provides that networking opportunity.
Yes, and maple tends to network very well, but in those events you'll find more people that you can work together with, and for sure it's a lot of fun. I always find myself a little bit recharged when I've been to the Midwinter Classic or one of the open houses or something, just to talk to different people, and that's you faced the same struggle I did. Would you look at that? We're all in it together. So
right, and then you talk to me and Adam and tell us what problems you're facing, and we go out and we get money, and we get a grant, and we try to solve the problem. So it's a great virtuous cycle we have here, and the association's pretty central to it.
It surely is, and I enjoy, because of our location, being able to work with the Cornell team at Arnott. And although I probably should be down there more, doing more, it encourages me to know different things that you folks have done. And for instance, the ultrafiltration, my ears are perking up every time you bring it up. So these are things I'm learning from that, and that's for me huge. So there's a lot that each producer can learn and glean.
So what are your hopes for the future of the New York maple industry? Just kind of big picture, thinking down the road, what are you hoping to see in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
So in the next 10 years, my goal would be to see us work together better, because the more we work together, the stronger that networking and the stronger the collective whole will be. So when I see a room full of 30 producers and they see a problem and they're all, well, I could do this or I could help with that, that means a lot to me. So I would like to see more of that happening. I would also like to see us reaching outside of our borders. And when I say that, I'm specifically looking overseas, because that's an untapped market that we really need to be looking at. New York has within its borders so many resources. We have the trees to have an incredible crop. We have people that are very well educated within the state that usually are fairly motivated to be outdoors and to work hard. And then we also have within our borders markets that are phenomenal for selling syrup. So we really don't have to go outside the border. With our long-term goals should be to be more effective within our state at promoting New York maple and also selling New York maple. If you think about the other states and provinces, they obviously are way ahead of us on the marketing. And so we really need to bolster that. So it'd be a two-pronged effect within our own state and then overseas as well.
Great. I think that's a wonderful vision for the industry, and it seems like we're making steps in that direction, but I guess we'll see how it unfolds over the coming years.
Well, each one of us, every minute that we can, market, because there's no sense in making more if we can't sell it. And we all want to make more, don't we?
I think those are good marching orders to end on. Those are orders directly from the president of the New York State Maple Producers Association. Get out there and market your products, folks. So with that, thanks for your time, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron. We appreciate everything you do.
Well, Aaron, that really was an interesting interview. Dan has a lot of good points for all of us sugar makers. One thing that really stuck out to me is the value of networking and kind of being connected with other sugar makers. In general, I agree that maple producers are happy to help each other.
Definitely. I think that's because this is a small, tight-knit industry that's been built by companies, producers, and associations. And unlike bigger ag sectors, where a lot of the action takes place behind closed doors and faraway boardrooms, you can actually interact directly with leaders in the maple industry. In New York, that includes people like Dan Weed.
Yeah, I think you're right, Aaron. And another thing that I think is interesting is the role of full-time sugaring businesses like Schoolyard Sugarbush and so many others across the state. These full-time businesses have a big stake in the success of our industry because sugaring is their whole livelihood. They have a strong incentive to be up to date on technology and best practices. That's part of what makes them such great experts.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, many of these folks are also equipment dealers and bulk syrup buyers. So it's also mutually beneficial for them to help local sugar makers succeed because those are their dealership customers and the producers who can provide a supply of high-quality bulk syrup for them.
Yeah, but not all producer experts are big-time operators. I've met lots of people tapping just a few hundred trees who really know a lot about the trade and have taken the time to learn the art and science of sugar making. Some of those are just retirees, others are well-run part-time businesses, and some are just really enthusiastic hobbyists.
I agree 100%. There's a lot to learn in the maple industry, but you don't need a huge number of taps and a giant sugar house to learn how to be a top-notch sugar maker. There's so many great resources for learning maple production. We have a lot of those resources on our website, cornellmaple.com. There's the new Maple Producers Manual that provides a good overview of sugar making practices. And another great resource that we discussed in this episode is the New York State Maple Producers Association.
Yeah, that's a great final point, Aaron. The New York State Maple Producers Association is a great organization with lots of resources. New York has so many great maple producers, and they have organized very effectively through the state association to provide helpful events and information. Things like the Maple Weekends, New York State Fair booth, the Mobile Maple Experience education trailer, and even lobbied for key changes to ag policies and regulations, along with different marketing campaigns. It's so much more than that.
I know Dan and others are working hard to make the association valuable to all New York sugar makers. So I encourage our New York listeners, if they aren't already involved with the association, to check out their website at nysmaple.com and join the association if you're inclined, and get involved if you have the bandwidth. Because as Dan mentioned, our industry is more successful when we all work together.
Yeah, great point, Aaron. And as a closing programming note, Dan is the first of several New York sugar makers we plan to highlight on Sweet Talk. But in the meantime, we encourage you to get out and network with other sugar makers in your own area. And we'll join you again soon for another episode of Sweet Talk, all things maple. Thank you for joining us for Sweet Talk, all things maple with Aaron and Adam. Sweet Talk is produced by the Cornell Maple Program and is made possible with funding from the New York State Maple Producers Association and the USDA Agricultural Marketing Service. All music is obtained from Blue Dot Sessions. For more information on all things maple, visit cornellmaple.com. Have a sweet day.